Alright guys, we are basically here. So this is going to be officially my final reminder of my giveaway for Pokemon Legends ZA. Go ahead, hit the link in the description, get your tickets in by signing up with an email and subscribing to the channel for more points to potentially win a copy. This is going to be the last time I talk about it because next time we talk about ZA, outside of this video, is going to be when the game drops. And by then, I'll likely be announcing the winners of the giveaway during my live stream playthrough of the game. So, again, get your chance. You don't want to miss that. And with that being said, Pass Soul, it's up to you. What would happen if you busted open a Metapod like a coconut? Would it be like a pre-dead butterfly or like some weird residue worm juice? It was good, y'all. Saul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, we have finally made it after damn near 2 full years of waiting. At the time of this recording, Pokemon Legends ZA is only a couple of days away. However, at the time of the release of this video, it will only officially technically be 1 sleep away. Of course, I did this intentionally because usually around the time of a Pokemon game's major release, I like to do a final thoughts type of video, talking about the final things that are kind of floating around my head when thinking about the game that's upcoming. However, this time I decided to just go ahead and open it up to everybody because we should all be having a little bit of a conversation about how we're feeling about this game before it finally drops. After all, this is going to be our final chance to do so. So I think we should open up that conversation to everybody, which is exactly why I put out a community post just a couple of days ago asking you guys how you felt about the game as it is. Are you excited for it? Are you going to pick it up day one? Are you maybe waiting for reviews and opinions to drop on the internet before you go ahead and decide to get it for yourself? Or are you completely uninterested, you don't want this game at all, and you're just going to wait for it to crash and burn? As per usual, you guys came through and gave a lot of responses, and I'm very grateful to every single one of you for giving a response. Obviously, my personal thoughts and final opinions will be saved for the end, so let's get through all of you guys first. And you know what? You know it so damn well already, there's no point in me even bringing it up. You know it that well. Congratulations. This is probably going to be a really short one, so why don't you go ahead and get cozy and just grab a nice cold glass of Diancie mineral water while we talk about all of our final opinions on Legends ZA. As per usual, we're going to go ahead and start with the Discord side of things, kicking it off with King Kier, who says, "Very excited and already have the game and DLC pre-ordered. Mostly looking forward to just exploring a new Pokemon game and discovering the game and all it has for myself." That is probably, by and far, the straightest and simplest to-the-point response that we're probably going to have in this video, if we're honest. But I like that. I'm very happy that you're excited for the game. It looks like it does have a lot to offer. It's going to be really exciting to play through a brand new Pokemon game. Despite the fact that we are going back to a region that is familiar to us, it does have a lot of new things to offer. And that in of itself is always exciting to see what they've cooked up these last couple of years. I really do hope that it meets your expectations and that it's a lot of fun, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. There's really no doubt about that. Right after that, we've got the homie Elliot, who says, "I'm very excited for this game. Exploring a fleshed out and big city in Pokemon for the first time is going to be fun. I've actually wanted bigger cities for years. I'm really excited to be in Kalos again since it might honestly be my favorite region. The new Megas all look amazing so far, except Mega Raichu Y, aka Mega Pikachu. I'm definitely going to use an all-Mega Pokemon team, old and new. I'm just overall happy Mega Evolution is back and it finally seems to be a major focus. I'm excited to learn more about Zygarde and some other characters like AZ. Hopefully we get more info on him. Seeing how old characters have changed like Emma will be fun. The overall gameplay looks fun, and although it isn't a high standard, this is definitely the best looking Pokemon game ever visually. The characters and story seem interesting. I'm pretty excited about the character customization. Hopefully we get more than Mega Rings. Since it's a Legends game, you have most of the mechanics from Arceus and those were fun, throwing Pokeballs, sprinting, and etc. I like that alphas are back, and Rogue Mega Evolution battles are definitely going to be fun. Overall, this game looks great, and I'll try to get it as early as possible. I will 100% get it, just not sure on pre-ordering. I'm glad you're excited, Chief. This game does really seem like it has a lot to offer, especially in a couple of aspects, specifically starting with the fact that we are in Kalos again, and that is always a treat, right? A lot of people, despite what a lot of people say, interestingly enough, when it came to like the original transition to 3D starting with Kalos, a lot of people seem very attached to that region. Me personally, it's a little hit or miss. Like, I like Kalos, but I don't think I was like ever in love with Kalos to the point where it ever became anything close to my favorite, but I do enjoy all of the concepts presented there. It was a nice looking region. It did have some memorable moments and things like that. Not the strongest story or anything like that, but I do love the idea of revisiting a future version of a previous region. Who knows? Maybe we'll fall even more deeply in love with this future version of Kalos. That's fine by me. I'm totally, my heart is open to it. You say here that you don't really like the idea of Mega Pikachu Y, but I don't know, me personally, I feel like if there's any Pokemon pre-evolution that should get another Mega Evolution, it's Pikachu. It only makes sense. And the fact that Mega Raichu Y looks so similar and resembles Pikachu so heavily, I kind of mess with that. I actually think I prefer Mega Pikachu Y over X, if we're completely honest. Maybe I'm in the minority on that one, but I like it. I mess with that design. I feel like a lot of people could definitely argue on how visually appealing the game actually looks. I do mostly agree that it's definitely one of the better looking, if not one of the best looking Pokemon games so far on the Switch 2 edition. I can't speak for the Switch 1. That one might look kind of ass, but you know, that's kind of a given. The Switch 2 just offers more power for them to put out, you know, something with better resolution and frame rate. So that's kind of a given, but you know, for the most part, I think I can safely agree on that. From what I've seen, it definitely just looks and runs pretty for the most part. So I can definitely agree with you there, especially on your final major fact, the fact that it is a Legends game, and because Legends kind of has its own thing going for it, there's a lot of appeal to that in of itself. And you know, just the idea of a Legends series being able to do its own thing, have its own unique mechanics going forward, that's just something to be really excited about. And we haven't even seen what this game has to offer yet in full, so I'm really excited to see what this game offers, and maybe it'll tell us what we can look forward to in the future when it comes to other Legends games. I'm with you on that. I totally agree. But yeah, you know, take your time, pre-ordering or not or whatever. Pre-order bonuses aren't really as much of a thing anymore as they used to be, or at the very least, they're not like as worth it as they once were. Like what, we get a couple of Pokeballs and like, you know, intro stuff, but like nothing too critical. So honestly, yeah, if you don't want to pre-order it and just kind of wait it out and, you know, just get a little bit of extra money in the bank or whatever you got to do before you make your final purchase, that's fine. Do whatever you got to do. Wait on it as long as you need to. It's not going anywhere. But I'm very happy you're excited for this game, man. Next to that, we've got the homie Crispy Boys, who says, weirdly, I feel almost identical to how I felt prior to Legends Arceus. Somehow, I was not super hyped for that game. It looked decent and I was going to get it, but just watching the gameplay, I didn't feel hooked yet. However, when I played the game itself, the gameplay really clicked and I loved it. Same thing here. What I'm seeing looks cool enough, but I'm not super hyped for it. But even with that said, I hear great things about the gameplay, and I do expect that it'll once again grip me and I'll have a ton of fun. Only thing I'm really concerned with is the actual city environment and the story, but I hope to be surprised. To be fair, I feel like that's a pretty common thing, where initially when everybody first sees the game, they have like a really crazy mix of like massive concern, but also like a hint of excitement for like the general idea of playing a new Pokemon game. But usually the standards of that Pokemon game have yet to be met with that first trailer, which is usually where all of the concern stems from. In this case, it doesn't really feel any different, even from like the Legends Arceus come up era, where we had all of these different trailers and the gameplay looked, you know, fun for the most part. It looked very, very interesting, that it felt like it was changing up the formula. But, you know, if we're honest, you know, Legends Arceus graphics wise looks like complete doo-doo. Like I just, you know, I don't think I've heard anybody argue on that fact. But for the most part, you know, I was kind of iffy about it too for a minute. I was generally hyped though, But, you know, when the game initially finally dropped, I had a great time with it. I was addicted to it. And I kind of get what you're getting at here, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same exact thing for me. Like, I'm obviously looking forward to it, but I feel like once I actually have the game in my hands, this could very well end up being, depending on how clean it is, a top 3, maybe top 2 Pokemon game. We'll have to see. But hey, if Legends Arceus had you hooked and that game was like rushed to hell and back, this one that they actually kind of seem to take their time with, yeah, no, this one might have you in a chokehold, gang, so we'll have to see. After that, we have the homie and the chief in charge, True CBE, who says, "Hey Soul, your Discord officer here with a rant on your question. So I will eventually be getting the game, possibly around December, unless I win it in the giveaway. And this is due to being burned by pre-orders like Man of Medan, WWE 2K20, Sparking Zero, Mario Striker Battle League, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So personally, I don't want to do pre-orders. I don't have a Switch 2 either, so going to have to wait to get that. And no, Soul, I'm not getting a Switch 1 inferior version of the game. Now, to the actual game. I am a fan of the battle mechanics, a major issue for me in Arceus. I like a lot of the changes involving catching and megas. I love the customization as it looks amazing. I am not a fan of the fact that we still don't know about entering buildings. As for the concerns on difficulty, I am not all that bothered about it. I just want a fun game. The story might be my biggest concern, as we have little to no information on it. Overall, looking forward to it, and I hope I am going to enjoy. Based on previous experiences, I cannot blame you in the slightest for waiting on a game that you might be concerned about actually liking down the line. As a fellow victim of Mario Striker Battle League, I completely understand all too well. That game pissed me off to no end. They didn't even try to actually update it and make it remotely fun. I'm sick to my stomach that I paid any form of money for that. So yeah, we'll have to see about Mario Tennis, what is it, Fever or whatever? But nobody's gonna convince me that Sparking Zero is a bad game. They just don't update it as often as they should, which is absolutely ridiculous. But in the case of Pokemon, especially if you're not getting the Switch 2 edition, because, you know, Switch 2 is pretty damn expensive, I don't blame you at all for not wanting to play the Switch 1 edition. It's almost like infuriating that there's just an inferior version of the game just floating around, that just a downgrade in every possible way, and it just sucks to be stuck with that because you don't want to drop like 500 on a console. Rightfully so too. Like, I don't blame anybody for that. Generally speaking though, I have to imagine that they're hiding stuff like entering a lot of buildings and like the story, because A, those things are probably like hella interconnected, B, because they don't want to give away too much before we actively get our hands on the game. You know what I mean? Like, there could be a lot of, you know, actually we don't know a lick about the story if we're completely honest, but is it weird that I kind of like that? Maybe it's because I grew up so heavily on Kingdom Hearts and like waiting for 3. All of those trailers completely spoiled the story of Kingdom Hearts 3. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody else can agree with that, but for the most part, I like that I don't know anything about the story. Like, I want to be completely surprised on any potential development on the characters or like what's actually going on. Maybe we'll be super surprised on like what the actual plot of this game is, if, you know, there is any. But I don't know. I like that. I like that they're kind of quiet about that. I like that we're mostly getting the gameplay aspects, and that the gameplay aspects look pretty generally good. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe I might be in the minority on that one. But yeah, no, absolutely wait until you see if it's even worth investing into the Switch 1 edition, if anything, before making a final decision. All right, moving along, we have the homie Sephi, who says, "I'm usually one of those that get Pokemon games day one, but this time around, I don't think I will. Not because I don't want it, I'm poor at the moment." Hey, no shame in that. The only thing I hope for you though is that you don't get too terribly spoiled on anything, because people are already leaking the game left and right as we speak. I've been dodging that sucker bad, but you know, hopefully you get to a point that, you know, you're actually comfortable, you know, you're living comfortable and you can afford that little luxury of getting Pokemon if you want it, you know. Hopefully it gets to a better point with that. But yeah, wait until, you know, you're at a much better point and you're actually confident that you feel like you'll enjoy the game before you invest in that. Because yeah, no, we got to be careful about how we spend our money, especially, I don't know if you're based in the US at all, but living out here, it is is no easy feat. And so, ending things off on the Discord side of things, we have Big Dog Dusidulon, who says, "Personally, I'm very excited for the game. I'm planning on pre-ordering soon and can't wait to try the new battle system and explore the city. My only complaint is them locking the Kalos Megas behind online. But other than that, I cannot wait for this game and hope I don't get spoiled on anything." Well, in the case of spoilers, heavily avoid Twitter at all costs these next couple of days. I know I for sure will. And yeah, as far as the Kalos Megas being completely locked behind PvP, that's stupid. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. That is dumb as hell. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to Battle Club. I like the idea of battling online with this battle style and things like that. That's cool and dandy. But the fact that this is the only way to get these mega evolutions, but not only that, these Mega Stones are locked behind seasons. So we can all get Mega Greninja on the first season eventually, but we can't get Mega Delphox or Mega Chestnut until the next coming seasons afterwards. But by that time, we'll be done with the game until the DLC. I mean, obviously, some people will definitely like it enough to do multiple playthroughs, but like, this is a Pokemon game, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna be spending most of our time doing shiny hunting and things like that. We're not gonna just keep starting the game over and over again just for a chance to see what it would be like to use these Mega Evolutions through the playthrough. That's ridiculous. Nobody's doing that. So, yeah, that's dumb. I agree that that's really dumb. That has me miffed a little bit the more I read into it, you know? At least they started with Mega Greninja. To me, personally, that's the best of the three. I love Upside Down Shuriken Water Ninja. He looks sick as hell to me. But other than that, I still think it's ridiculous that people can't get Mega Delphox or Chestnut for like probably the next month or so. That's crazy. We'll be done with this game in a week. Come on now. I mean, granted, at the very least, you know, we'll always have the online mode to be able to utilize these Pokemon in, but I don't know. I really do hope that in the base game, before we get the DLC, there is stuff to utilize these Mega Evolutions on, because otherwise, what's even the point, you know? Like, why hold it off for that long? That's ridiculous. All right, Discord side is done. So why don't we go ahead and move it over to the YouTube side? Again, just so you're aware, if you ever want priority on videos like these, make sure to join up in the Discord, because when I put out that notification, those responses get priority every time. So if you want priority in your responses, go ahead and make sure to join up in the Discord. It's a nice little community. We love having combos over here. We'll definitely do more with the Discord side of things. I'm thinking some movie nights or something, but generally speaking, you're going to want to join up in the Discord. We have a lot of fun combos over there. Kicking off the YouTube side, we have Big Dog DeVesta, who says, "Skipping it, half because I don't have a Switch anymore, half because Pokemon has just burnt me too much the last 5 years or so." What happened to your Switch, gang? I mean, I get it, you know, Pokemon is very hit or miss and can definitely, you're justified in feeling burnt out on it, but the whole Switch, gang? How come? Was there just nothing on there for you? I'm curious, actually. But yeah, no, I think a lot of people will definitely agree in which Pokemon has just been extremely mediocre in terms of quality these last couple years, and throughout the entirety of the Switch era, mind you, right? I mean, starting with Let's Go as the first game on there, completely just eradicates most of the fundamentals just as a hook for Pokemon Go players to go right into Sword and Shield, which didn't meet a lot of expectations in terms of, you know, the fact that it had zero story. Graphically, it definitely needed a lot of work in that department. Right into Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. That, we don't need to discuss that anymore. And then, you know, Scarlet Violet, it's just tiring, to say the least, when you see something that you care about just fall so far down in quality. So I get it. I completely understand. Don't blame you in the slightest for not even really looking into this game like that. But, you know, maybe you'll see something interesting about it. Maybe you'll want to look more into it. But, you know, if you don't even have a Switch anymore, then I guess it is what it is. Moving along, we've got the homie Ivan Zone, who says, "Apologies again for the long post. Yeah, I'm going to skip this one, unless something they are hiding changes my mind. Right now, I'm just not having a good feeling about this game. I'm not keen on the art style, and the concept still feels weird to me. Wild Pokemon in the middle of city streets, and even alpha Pokemon from ancient Hisui too? It doesn't make sense to me. Plus, I find the so far absence of key characters and locations that were in X and Y's Lumios to be one of my biggest disappointments with the game. Where is Clement, Bonnie, Sycamore, Trevor, Alexa? Is there still the PR video studio? What about the Lumios Museum? Is there rolling skates? Is there still a gym in the city? The marketing from this game has been so lackluster in my opinion that questions like those just keep coming in my mind, and I frankly think that this game might actually remove a lot of the elements that made Lumio City from X and Y what it was. In conclusion, this game hasn't been appealing to me that much. There are interesting new concepts in the game for sure, but it just feels like a mess to me. It's just 1 week, so let's see if the game actually has potential or it's just meh. I'm looking forward to seeing you play it. Completely valid to skip out on a game that you don't think is interesting to you. If it doesn't appeal to you whatsoever, yeah, don't invest your time into it if you feel like it's just not gonna be for you. And you know what? That's what you got me for, gang. I'll play it for you. You know what I'm saying? If you want to ask me questions while I'm streaming it or whatever, that's what I'm here for, man. But very interesting things what you said here. Let's break it down a little. As far as the art style, I personally don't think that the art style is necessarily bad, especially on the characters and stuff like that. I think people are just very traumatized because it's the Scarlet and Violet art style, which was the most controversial style because of the fact that it came from such a broken game. So people are very burnt on this style and it just doesn't look appealing to them whatsoever, to the point where it looks just completely ugly to people, which, you know, I personally don't see it that way. I think that the Scarlet and Violet style is fine. I just think that it needed a little more refining, which I felt like this game seems to be doing personally. It was usually just like the environments and stuff like that from Scarlet and Violet. Not necessarily like the models or the people or anything like that. But, you know, if the game looks ugly to you, the game looks ugly to you. In the eye of the beholder and all that, you know? As far as the alpha Pokemon, I think alpha Pokemon have technically always been a thing. Like, we've seen from the anime and even other instances where there have been giant versions of Pokemon. We just didn't really have a title for those Pokemon until we saw them in Legends Arceus, where they gave them the title of Alpha Pokemon in Hisui, right? So now they're just kind of capitalizing on that and making it so that, yeah, Alpha Pokemon have just kind of always been a thing. And the fact that they are in the city does make sense because, you know, the whole thing with Kazartico Inc. is so that, you know, their whole plan is to make it so that there are environments for Pokemon to live in within the city. That's kind of like the whole point of what they're doing. You know, they want to make, you know, a comfortable space for these Pokemon to live within the city amongst the people. So I'm not really surprised at that. And, you know, we've seen Pokemon in cities plenty of times beforehand. So, you know, that's just my take on it. You know, as far as the concern with like the locales, like the PR studio and the museum and stuff like that, they could still very much be there. You know, we have seen the insides of a couple of buildings here and there. We don't know to what extent we're gonna be in there like that, but it's not impossible that we could be seeing these things make a return in some way, shape, or form. But again, this game takes place a good couple of years after the initial events of Pokemon X and Y, and a lot of things can be changed and developed within that time. So, you know, it wouldn't be surprising to me if they, you know, even made it bigger. Maybe they changed it out with something else. Who knows? You know, it's really, really hard to say what they haven't shown us yet. You know, we haven't explored the city as much as we would have liked to. And that's, you know, again, people's biggest concern is that we haven't explored this city enough to truly know what's going on. But I completely understand the concern. These are locales that were very important to Lumio City, and it would be very strange for them to just completely up and disappear like that. So hopefully they are present within the game. And in a similar vein, I definitely see what you're saying about the characters. However, I very, very highly doubt, if I'm honest, that they would show those characters in any of the trailers leading up to the game, as opposed to just us finding them within the game. Because they know that we would be expecting Sycamore and Bonnie and Clement and stuff like that, you know? They expect us to want to see those characters. I think the distance between X and Y and Legends ZA is like 5 to 6 years. you can't really, I wouldn't really expect anybody to stay that complacent for like 5 to 6 years, especially somebody like Alexa, who's a journalist from the city. She would probably be traveling around and things like that, doing her thing, you know? I wouldn't expect her to still be there. It would be a nice surprise if she came back to her hometown and visited Lumio City while we were on our journey. Maybe she wanted to see what the whole ZA tournament situation was about, because that's obviously a new concept. But for the most part, you know, I wouldn't expect any of these people to stay complacent, especially like, you know, Clement and Bonnie and stuff like that. I don't know what their situation is with the tower. They were the gym leaders there, but again, it's really hard to say when, again, they expect us to want to see these characters. So I can't imagine they would just be like, oh yeah, and here's these characters. There you go, they're here. You know, I imagine it would be much more of a surprise for us to find them in game, if anything. But again, it's been a very long time. These characters could have completely moved on with their lives. We could definitely see them in future titles too, you know? It's not like they're dead and gone. They might not be here, but who knows? And, you know, if I could keep it a $1.50 with you, Chief, I'm not that attached to the X and Y cast like that. So it's just like, you know, if we see these cameos, that's cool and all, but I mean, I don't really feel like a lot of these characters made that heavy of an impact on Pokemon as a whole. So it's just like, you know, if Trevor's around, great. Can't wait to see him. But I'm not really tripping that hard on if he's there or not. You know, he's probably a little more grown by now doing his own thing. So I'm just like, you know, if I come across him, sick. But if not, it is what it is. We haven't seen what the fast travel is going to look like in this game at all. So I really don't know if roller skates are still a thing. They could still be a thing. Who knows? And then, you know, again, as far as a gym, I'll be honest, I don't think there's a gym. I'm pretty sure that where the gym was is where like the final primary destination of the game is. We're gonna be fighting Quizartico Inc. at the top of that tower. Guaranteed. Like I have zero doubt in my mind that's what that is. I don't think it's a gym anymore. Again, don't get it wrong, the concerns are very valid, and a lot of people will definitely agree that the marketing for this game has been absolutely strange for the most part, considering the fact that it feels like they're still giving us like not a lot to work with in a lot of aspects. So I don't really blame anybody for just being like super iffy about it or like borderline concerned for it. So that's totally fine. I get it. Those are just my takes on what you said here, because that's kind of where I'm sitting at with a lot of that stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff could be here, it may not be there. You know, I'm overall just looking forward to what's new, what's present, what's going on in this futuristic version of Lumio City 5 to 6 years later after the fact, you know? But again, who knows? When we play through the game, maybe you'll see something that changes your mind, or at the very least, it'll quell your fears and concerns when you actually see some things that you like, or things that takes you back to your childhood and reminds you of, you know, the fact that this is the next episode of X and Y. You know what I mean? That being said, I'm tossing the mic over to Kesley O'Rear, who says, I'm gonna get it eventually because I love Kalos and the customization looks peak, but I'm gonna wait, maybe even buy it secondhand. The DLC already being announced and the Kalos megas being locked behind a paywall is giving EA/Ubisoft, and I am not a big fan of that. As we've depicted before, Nintendo is not shy about doing stuff like this in general, let alone Pokemon. So it's just like, you know, it's nothing new that they're announcing a DLC this early, but it's just such a strange thing to see absolutely nothing in regards to said DLC. No gameplay, no real information. It's very strange to say the least. EA and Ubisoft is crazy, but I get what you're getting at. Those are by and far, they're somehow way greedier than Pokemon Company, and they don't even have nearly as much money probably. Maybe they do, I don't know. But regardless, yeah, I totally get the concern there. And, you know, as we stated earlier in regards to the megas being locked behind the PvP mode, ridiculous, absolutely insane. So I get it, that's totally fine. But, you know, hopefully it meets your expectations in one way or another, and it still ends up being really fun if you do eventually plan to pick it up. Next, let's see what Ivy VGC has to say. I honestly don't really care for it. I'll probably get the game because I have a buddy who's excited to play multiplayer with me, but as far as the game itself, it's okay. Doesn't look bad, I just don't really care for Kalos. Okay, I mean, you know, hopefully at the very least, you know, if you do plan to pick it up, you'll still end up having a good time with it, probably better than you're hoping or even expecting at this point if you have zero to low expectations for it. But, you know, maybe you'll find something in that multiplayer and it'll end up being a good enough time to want to invest more into it, you know? But we'll have to play it by ear, but yeah, hopefully it turns out good for you in some capacity. All right, next is Dallas Fox, who says, I already have the game preloaded, so I'm super ready for release day. That being said, I'm excited because I've been keeping up with all the reviews from Info Games and IGN and other PokeTubers, and I think this is going to be way more full of life than the demos have shown. That, and I'm excited for the story. This feels like a literal repeat of Pokemon Legends Arceus, right? Because most people were like very spotty on the quality of Legends Arceus. Like, yeah, it was cool that it was such a new concept and things like that, but people were like, oh god, like, is this really like the next step for Pokemon? And then everybody actually played the game for themselves like early, like a week or two early, and they were like, yeah, no, this is one of the best Pokemon games I've ever played. Like, I'm having so much fun, and everybody's like, oh, okay, maybe this does have something to offer. And then most people ended up really enjoying Pokemon Legends Arceus. Like, despite, you know, graphics and things like that and like weird marketing and things like that, the game actually had a lot to offer for a lot of people. And that's really, really cool. So I'm thinking this is a very similar situation with that, and maybe, you know, the marketing is just not it. A lot of people are just not really feeling it right now, but once those like full playthrough, like people who've gone through the entire game have posted their opinions out there on the internet, like people are gonna be like, oh, all right, maybe it's time I change my tune. Who knows? We'll see what happens, you know? So I don't know. I'm glad you're super excited though, and hopefully gameplay and story-wise, it gives you what you're looking for. After that, we've got Ancient Baltoy, who says, I'm getting it. My biggest concerns though are how much it's going to be similar to Legends Arceus and how much it's going to be similar to the regular titles. Specifically, the return to Trade Evolution scares me, since I wanted to use a Trevenant on my team. As far as your concerns go, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm a little confused because, like, I mean, to an extent, it kind of needs to be similar to Legends Arceus because it's a Legends title, and in that same vein, it still has to be kind of similar in some way to the mainline titles as it's still a Pokemon game, so I'm just a little confused on what you're looking for with that, but you know, it is what it is. If it concerns you, it concerns you. And as far as the like concern regarding trade evolutions, I totally get it, but you know, again, at its core, Pokemon has always been like one of those franchises that you kind of are supposed to be talking about and playing alongside with friends and stuff like that, which is why they introduced trade evolutions in the first place. But I totally get not wanting it to be there, especially when they introduce something as convenient as the link cable so that you could get everything without needing other people. But, you know, worst case, hey, we've got a phenomenal little community here of people that will gladly be willing to trade with you, me included. You know, if you need your Trevenant, whatever, if you get your hands on a Phantump, hey, just get in the chat, you know, just be like, hey, Soul, can we trade real quick? I want to evolve my Trevenant. Hey, cool, sick as hell. I need a Trevenant for my Pokédex, so let's go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's really not that much to worry about. You know, if you're here, that means you're secure in any trade evolutions you need, and I would hope vice versa, unless one of you demons. If I'm streaming the game and I want Gengar, which I might want a Gengar on my team, if y'all steal my Gengar, I'm hunting you down. I'm hunting you down. But regardless, yeah, I think we're gonna have a phenomenal time with this game when it drops together. You know what I'm saying? So nothing really to worry about there for the most part. But, you know, hopefully as far as your concerns, it is alleviated in some way, shape, or form when you're actually playing the game for yourself. Hopefully it's just enough like Legends and just enough like Pokemon, but also unique enough in its own way to feel like something brand new for you. Moving along here, we have that dog Eric Lee, who says, final thoughts are, I guess I am neither excited to play, but still pre-ordered the game because I will always be a fan. I hate that the DLC was announced before launch. That really upsets me. Or even the concept of having to pay for DLC when the game should give us any updates for free, as it's the most profitable thing literally ever. I do like how not a lot of the game has been shown, so I'm holding on to actually exploring and most importantly, the new fighting mechanics. I think the game will be better than Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield, but maybe not yet Legends Arceus. Just solid enough to win me over, even with the scummy practices. This is completely valid, and I've seen a lot of people attacked for doing something like this, like even if you're not necessarily excited for it, you still want the game. that's totally fine. I don't think anybody should be like concerned or like scared to voice their, opinion or like action on doing that. You should absolutely, feel free to spend your money however you want to spend your money and play whatever games you want to play, right? In the case of Pokemon Legends ZA, in this case specifically, I definitely agree that announcing a DLC, a paid DLC, well before the game is even released with zero information on it or even any gameplay is absolutely one of the bolder moves they've done, especially after the absolute PR disaster for this franchise that was Scarlet and Violet, right? Me personally, if I was running the company, I'd be like, look, we're still being forced to rush out games here, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that our fans are actually somewhat happy. We don't need to make them pay for this DLC. They're getting the game regardless. It's absolutely unnecessarily greedy to even charge for this DLC, which easily could have been extra post-game or something like that to make it so that they have something to enjoy afterwards, right? And we could still easily develop more content for this game later down the line while we work on new stuff so that they have something to look forward to next year or maybe even the year after. So it is ridiculous, and it's always been kind of a scummy practice in this sense. So I totally agree with you on that. I personally also agree that it's probably gonna be a much higher quality game than Scarlet and Violet. Off rip, it already looks like it runs and just looks generally better resolution wise and frame rate wise than Scarlet and Violet ever did, even in this newer version of the update. But regardless, I think it has a lot of potential to be one of the better Pokemon games. I think it pretty much all lies in the story and gameplay for me as well. I totally understand that. So hopefully it does what it needs to do to win you over. Hopefully the gameplay is fun enough and the story is interesting enough to keep you hooked. I think you deserve that for sure. You should have a good game on your hands, I hope. Next along, we've got Victoria Steele, who says, I'm actually a hell of a lot less hyped than I was for Pokemon Legends Arceus or Scarlet and Violet. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and Scarlet and Violet really destroyed my faith in the games. I hope these are awesome and I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm expecting something entirely mediocre with everything looking the same everywhere. I enjoyed Kalos and love Megas, so I'm looking forward to it. Hell, I even pre-ordered the game. I guess I'm just jaded on what they can actually manage with a Switch. That, and if they'll bother trying to make something amazing instead of just another nostalgic cash grab. Yeah, no, validly so. Like we've said a couple of times now, Scarlet and Violet and oh my god, especially Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is really what opened a lot of people's eyes in the most recent years to what this company is actually doing in terms of their really greedy practices in how they release these games, because we were begging, like literally, like we don't need another game that soon, like y'all can keep it under wraps, you know what I'm saying, only for them to just keep dropping a lot of mediocre stuff for a lot of people. I personally still find enjoyment in these games, so it's just like, I ended up having a good time with them regardless, but a lot of people don't feel that way, and that's totally justified. They were released in states that were just absolutely unacceptable, and it's rightfully so. People are upset and jaded and exhausted with this franchise. It's no wonder why, And, a lot of people are definitely looking more into this one, especially because it takes place in Kalos, a future version of Kalos, which was a lot of people's favorites. Like, Kalos is definitely where a good chunk of people hopped on to Pokemon too, just like every other region, but Kalos specifically as the first 3D region, like a lot of people are like, whoa, what's going on with Pokemon now? You know what I'm saying? So this game has a lot riding on it, especially with the Kalos fans, you know what I'm saying? So hopefully it offers plenty for you to be just enamored with, and hopefully it offers a lot to you. As far as like the Switch 1 version, if that's the one you're getting, I completely understand if you're concerned about that, because I don't know what to tell you. That one's gonna run like trash. I can't lie to you, that one is probably gonna run like boo-boo butter, but who knows, maybe the game will be fun enough for you to overlook it, so we'll have to play that one by ear. Oh, over there we've got Zavicorticos, who says, I am genuinely excited about the story. Usually I can kinda guess the plot from the trailers, but this time I have no clue. Can't wait to play it. I have a couple of ideas of what the story is probably gonna be about, and I'm really hoping that I'm wrong, because that would be extremely predictable, but for the most part I'm still very much looking forward to the story. I feel like they'll present it in an interesting enough way, especially because, again, Scarlet and Violet really upped the quality with writing, at least in my opinion. A lot of other people who've actually played through the game can agree that the writing was actually a lot better this time around, so hopefully in this case they up it even more, and we have a lot to look forward to. The primary plot with like Quasartico Inc. and stuff like that, we'll have to see. I'm really interested to learn more about like Naveen and AZ and all that. Like I'm learning, I want to learn more about what's going on with that situation, you know, with the hotel and all that, how everything came to be the way it was, you know. But overall, I'm looking forward to the story as well, so we'll see how it plays out. Next, we're gonna go ahead and popcorn that sucker over to Dante Infernape, who says, I'll get the game at some point. Why rush if I'm getting it digitally? I'm excited for the new megas that haven't been shown yet, and just in general what's actually in the game. I'm a little apprehensive because unlike Arceus, where they told you the general plot and had bits and pieces shown to help you understand what you're in for, ZA keeps showing the same thing. We get it, there's a new battle system with a unique ranking system, but what is the game about? Is the sole purpose just to get A rank? Is there an evil team this time? Do we still complete the decks or do tasks to fill it like Arceus? There's so much unknown, and in this case, that's not necessarily good. I'll check out your stream and then hopefully that helps ease my concerns. No, that's valid because they did actually have like a more like dedicated and direct, for the most part, plot in Pokemon Legends Arceus. This time around, they seem to be like very intentionally hiding the plot more so than ever. Like, they gave us the idea of Quasartico Inc., haven't really talked about them since. They gave us a general idea of the Rust Syndicate, barely mentioned them or talked about them since. So it's just like, what are we in for? You know what I mean? Like, is this them actually going out of their way to hide the plot because they have something that they really want us to see in the game? Or is it just a situation in which they don't really feel like they are hiding anything and we have seen everything that we need to know in regards to this game? And I get it. It's really scary to see what's going on with that. And then, you know, as far as like gameplay aspects of it, yeah, I mean, we do know that we're gonna have like specific quests and stuff like that, just like we did in Legends Arceus. We're gonna have a dex to fill, and we're gonna have to do it in a specific way so that we could get, you know, all the extra bonuses and rewards and potentially even the shiny charm, you know, because that's obviously gonna be a thing. It's always a thing. At this point, I really do think that they've shown us everything that they plan on showing us, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hope that they haven't shown us everything and they've actually hidden a lot, because yeah, I think everybody has a very valid concern with that, because it feels like they are intentionally hiding something, but you know, I hope we're right on that. Next, we've got Sosa Jameson, who says, already pre-ordered. I love the new battle system. I hate not having ride mons, even though it's just Lumio City. But we shouldn't have to lose what we love to get something new. They should build towards the new games. I mean, look at Power World and all the new Pocket Monster games. Again, we don't know at all what any form of speed or fast traveling looks like, so we don't really know if we don't have any travel mons yet. I mean, we always usually have something of that format or that caliber for the most part, but I really don't know yet. But, you know, I get the concern, I totally get it. Hopefully they do introduce or reintroduce Ride-On to be able to ride around the city in, but I don't know, I feel like the streets are a little too narrow for that, so maybe they won't. But we gotta have some form of fast travel and some type of speed traveling, just like we did in Legends Arceus or Scarlet and Violet even. So I don't know, I feel like there's gotta be something there, we just haven't seen it yet. Next, we've got the Ruby Minecart, who says, I want to see Kalos again. Even if I don't win the giveaway for it, I still want to get the game day one. I love that it's in Kalos again. I can't wait to see all the amazing clothes I can put on my character. Seeing the Kalos region and specifically Lumio City, Mega Delphox is another thing I like. What I don't like is that the Kalos starters megas are locked behind online battles, but I'm going to get the NSO thing because I want Mega Delphox so badly because it looks cool. It's so fun to me to see how like connected and just how nostalgic everybody is for Kalos, because I don't know, like I liked Kalos my first time through, but I was never really all that nostalgic for it, if I'm honest. Like even now, I'm like, it's cool that we're going back, you know, and the nostalgia's kind of there, but you know, not to the extent of a lot of people, you know. So I'm really happy that a lot of people are looking forward to just exploring Kalos again and seeing all the new stuff that the region has to offer for them. It's a really exciting prospect. Not to mention all the potential customization aspects that are going to be present in there. The fact that it's not gender locked is absolutely insane. I can't wait. It's going to be such a good time. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, over here we have Spunky King. Let's see what they have to say. Already ordered the Switch 2 and the Switch 2 version of the game. With the Kalos region being one of my all-time favorites and knowing they've been working on the game for a little over 3 years now or so, I just know it's going to be peak. That's something I also find interesting, is the fact that they actually had that entire extra year of 2024 to work on these games, right? But the weird thing about it that I'm a little concerned about is just the fact that they had to take that extra year simply to polish the Switch 2 version as opposed to actually like adding more content and stuff like that. I could be in my head about that. I could be just completely wrong and stupid about that. Hopefully I am. But I don't know. They did take that extra year, so hopefully it is really worth it. You know what I mean? It's been a while now. This is probably one of the biggest distances we've had in between Pokemon games, so I really do hope that they took their time with this one and they give us a lot, especially because a lot of people are really looking forward, just like I said, to revisiting the Kalos region for the first time again in ages. So I really do hope they are cooking with something here. All right. Revits, what you got for us? I know a lot of decisions have been divisive and some rightfully criticized, but I've been a believer for this game since its announcement, and I think people are definitely underestimating it because of how broken Scarlet and Violet was. Personally, I'm getting it day one. Obviously, I'm hyped for the new battle system, but besides that, I think the potential for the narrative for a game set in one city is pretty big. I'm still riding the high from Volo, so I trust them to follow through. No, that's pretty much exactly it. Right? Everybody just feels so burnt after Scarlet and Violet that they just don't know what to trust in this anymore, right? And I totally get that, and I would also be concerned if we didn't already see like the definitive version of this game running and looking, to me personally, fine. Like, graphically speaking, I know Pokemon is still definitely behind the times a little bit in certain aspects, but you know, for the most part, they've always been more about like the stylistic cartoony anime thing going on than anything else, right? So that doesn't surprise me. But back then and even up to this point, while I do have a couple of questions and concerns that I think I just talked about in my most recent video, I still think this game does have a lot of potential. And I think I did say that before, that because it's like narrowed down world scale wise, like because we're doing this in a much more controlled space, I feel like the narrative does have a lot more potential than people realize, and that's something I think is being kind of underestimated. So I'm totally with you on that. So hopefully they do follow through, especially after what they did with Volo. I know a lot of people were super happy with that, so let's see if they can cook again. What up, Colton Hartman? It looks like you've got something to say to us next. I'm concerned we haven't seen any transportation, and I haven't seen Rhyhorn in the Rhyhorn Racing region. I didn't realize up to this point how many people were actually that concerned about the transportation aspect, and I don't blame anybody for that, but it's not something that I thought about too heavily until this point, if I'm completely honest. I'm not too worried about it because I don't mind traveling by foot area to area, just enjoying whatever the city has to offer, but I know that people are definitely going to want to get to a point where they can ride Rhyhorn or fly over the city, or, sorry, I'm cracking my fingers, have access to something that makes it so that they can go through the city at their own leisure with Pokemon by their side, or, you know, riding atop them or whatever. So I completely get the concern. I didn't realize it was that massive. But yeah, the fact that we haven't seen like any form of riding or skating or anything, rightfully concerning. I think now that I do, you know, see what you're saying, yeah, I can see why everybody's a little concerned about that aspect. So hopefully they do introduce at some point in the, you know, earlier quarter half of the game something to make it so that we can get around a little bit faster, but I don't know. I really don't know, man. And lastly, to end things off, we have Eye of Stained Glass. Big homie, what you gotta say? I'm a bit apprehensive. Can't afford a Switch 2, so I might get it for the Switch. A little nervous about how well it'll run. I don't mind if it isn't as clear and pretty as Switch 2, but if the Switch version struggles with lag and frame rate in a game where the battles are actually live, I wouldn't be happy playing it. And that is ultimately the biggest, issue. Outside of the fact that this game takes place in one city, one of the biggest concerns is the fact that there is a Switch 1 edition that is definitely, just honestly, not going to be as strong as the Switch 2 edition, which, again, you know, in all fairness makes sense because the Switch 2 is the superior console. It was built with more power in mind, as opposed to the Switch 1, which was just kind of a race against time before Nintendo couldn't really afford to do much else in the console market because of the failure of the Wii U, right? So it's just, they know full and well that they have a much bigger market right now with the Switch 1 because most people have a Switch 1, which is why they wanted to capitalize on that and make sure that everybody who has one has access to this game, because you know they are aware that people are going to want to be able to play this game in some capacity. What sucks is that the Switch 1 just simply is not as strong, and so it's expected, again, because of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that the game looks like it'll run kind of like ass, and that would really, really suck. That would really suck right now, man. It's validly concerning, and I really hope that at the very least it manages to run at least decently on the Switch 1, right? Because even Pokemon Legends Arceus, despite, you know, graphical capabilities and issues, it managed to run without too many heavy like frame drops or anything like that, at least in my personal experience. So hopefully we have a situation here in which the game runs okay enough to where it's not disruptive to anybody's gameplay experience, especially for a majority of the player base that's going to be playing this on Switch 1. Most people are going to be playing this on Switch 1, so hopefully they've at least taken the time to smooth it out so that nobody has too many issues or glaring issues with the game running on Switch 1, because that's going to be a major problem otherwise. I'm for sure right beside you on the opinion that the game doesn't need to look the prettiest or anything like that to still be a good time. However, if it's still hard to look at and barely feels like it functions, yeah, that's not good. That is awful. And, you know, even like the Switch 1 edition deserves much better than that. And, you know, hopefully we get to see that, because unfortunately, one of the things that we are missing in terms of information is how well it runs on Switch 1. Most people who have played a demo have played that build on the Switch 2. So we really don't know what the Switch 1 edition is going to look, run, or feel like until we have our hands on it. And I really hope it runs well, because otherwise this is going to be a massive PR disaster round 2, man. Because nobody should have to shell out $500 just to play a decently working game. That's not okay in any capacity. That being said, that should do it for most of your guys' responses to my prompt. Again, thank you so much for all of your guys' continued support over the last couple of years. This has just been a lot of fun to do. I love doing these, man. I love getting your guys' opinions on things, and I always want to do more of these. I just got to figure out how to go about more of these, but you know, we'll have a lot to talk about really soon, right? But before we get into any of that, you know, first we got to get the game to release. Secondly, we need to talk about the final opinion, the true final opinion here, my opinion. And if it wasn't clear or obvious in any way, I am ecstatic for this game and very much looking forward to playing it day one on stream with everyone. As far as a lot of the concerns a lot of people seem to have with this game, those don't really apply as much to me, because again, when it comes to like everything taking place in one city, I've played plenty of games that have taken place in one city, plenty of RPGs that have taken place in one city. One of my favorites of all time being The World Ends With You takes place solely in Shibuya. That's totally fine with me. You know what I'm saying? I have seen plenty of games make the one city thing work, and it's not, you know, it probably won't be as stale as you think. Like, I know people get tired of like repeating like environments and stuff like that, but you know what? I mean, we've grown up on, you know, games like Mario and other platformers and like other RPGs that usually go through the same general like static environments anyway, with the grass area, the forest area, the desert area, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? People are very iffy about the whole city aspect, but me personally, I love big modern cities in a fantasy setting in any capacity. You know, I've always loved this kind of thing. So the fact that it feels like we're really playing like a modern style game that's, you know, has all the electronics and it has all of the like the cities and the cafes and things like that, you know, I love this kind of thing, right? So I'm really looking forward to being able to truly explore Lumio City at its fullest in a game where they could fully just go all out and design the city with as many details in mind as humanly possible. Obviously, as I've said time and time again, the most exciting aspect of this game to me is going to be the mechanics, the battle mechanics that they've introduced. I love action RPGs. My favorite game series of all time is Kingdom Hearts. It's an action RPG series. And then, you know, right beside, you know, within that realm, I adore Xenoblade. So seeing a game that plays something like that is absolutely astounding to me, and I can't wait to see what this game has to offer. Me personally, I wouldn't mind if most Pokemon Legends games going forward had this style of gameplay, because I feel like it would be such a waste to only have it in this situation, right? And I know a lot of people definitely will disagree with that notion, but me personally, I'd be totally okay with it. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it would be really, really interesting, and I think we could get a lot of mileage out of something like that. We could really experiment and have a lot more fun with something like this, right? And not to mention the fact that they made it so that we actually do have an online mode capable of running this battle mechanic in a way that could be really, really interesting, right? I'm super looking forward to Battle Club and ranking up with you guys, with friends, and just everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm really, really looking forward to those battle mechanics and seeing what they have to offer, especially because we're going to be taking those into raid battles all the time. We're going to be fighting these big, bad, mega evolved Pokemon, and we're going to be able to evolve our Pokemon on the fly, and it's just going to be so, it just feels like it's going to be so badass. I'm really, really looking forward to that. The customization has taken a full 180 and looks possibly the best it has ever looked. I'm so excited to get into that and delve deeper into that customization, man, because I'm so tired of being the black Pokemon player that has zero options for fits or customization in any regard. Zero hairstyles. I swear we have more than fades and buzz cuts, bro. Come on. And afros too, man. At least give us some unique afros, for God's sakes. But I'm really looking forward to that customization. It really does look like it could get really, really fun, and you can spend a lot of time on that alone. Time and a lot of money we're gonna be earning from these battles, man. I know I'm gonna be spending hella funds. Naveen, as a young, you look kind of dark, homie. You might have something cooking for me. So I'm looking forward to whatever is going on in that regard. Obviously, you know, the game doesn't look perfect to me, though. I do still have my concerns that I've, you know, talked about in my previous video, like how the online situation is going to work in terms of playing with friends and stuff like that, and fill features, 1v1s, if we're going to be able to take rogue mega battles online to be able to play those with friends, if we're going to be able to go underground for the story, if the story is going to be something interesting in any regard, really. I still have a lot of concerns in regards to this game, but for the most part, what I've seen personally does appeal to me. Like, I've been talking directly to you guys. I have been trying to see it from every particular angle, and I've talked directly through this video alone. You know, I've seen what you guys are saying, and it all makes a lot of sense to me as to why it may or may not appeal to you. But me personally, I think this game does have something for me, and I'm really excited to see what it drops. You know what I'm saying? I love the entire tournament aspect. The idea of like actively going out of your way to battle individual trainers and like growing your rank through that is something that I have wanted to see from this series. I know I scripted a video. I don't remember if I made a video on that particular fact, but I do remember like somewhere stating that I wanted this, and they gave me that in some capacity. Cannot wait to see what happens when I get to A rank. I'm excited, and I just can't wait to build my team. I have no idea what it's gonna look like, but I know I'm probably gonna have at least minimum Dragonite and Gengar, a given. I'm hearing something about Phalanx. I don't know. I think Phalanx might be in the game. We might have Phalanx on the team. We'll see. People call it Phalanx, right? I've been saying Phalanx for years, but whatever the case. Love that Mon. I want it on my team. Overall, extremely excited. Cannot wait to see what this game brings to the table and what it could potentially mean for the future of Pokemon. Because at the very least, if this game has some quality aspects to it and it's, you know, minimum a lot of fun, we could see a lot of potential things make it to Generation 10. You know, obviously not the battle system. That's not leaving the Legends series at the very least, but we could see a lot of unique aspects brought to Generation 10 and beyond based on what we see with this game. So hopefully it gives us a lot to look forward to. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. Guys, this video is stupid long. Oh my God. I don't know how I'm gonna get this up on Tuesday, but we gonna figure it out, man. We gonna hash it out one way or another. I'll find out. But regardless, I think I have said my piece, more than said my piece. So anybody that didn't get their chance, here's the time now. Let's have one final conversation pre-Legends ZA. In the comments, you tell me, how are you feeling about the game? Is this something that you see yourself copying? Is this something that you've been looking forward to since day one? Or maybe the constant trailers and things like that have made it grow on you? Or maybe you're another one of those that have had a similar effect in which the more you see, the less you're interested, and you just don't really find yourself invested in that game, and maybe you just want to watch people play to see if maybe this game does have something to offer for you. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below. Now, before I end off, again, like I said at the very beginning, like I'm sure Passel said at the very beginning, make sure this is the final chance you'll have to enter the giveaway. After this, it's out of my hands, all right? So make sure that you get your tickets in. Links in the description. Go to King Sumo. Make sure that you enter your email and everything. Sub to the channel. Get your extra points in so that you could have a chance to potentially win a giveaway for Pokemon Legends ZA. I think we're going to be giving away a few copies. We'll have to... We'll talk directly with the winners and stuff like that to see how things play out. But for the most part, make sure you get your tickets in. You guys deserve a little something. I want to make sure to give that to you. So, that being said, I think I've said my piece, and I'm getting the hell out of here because I got to edit this now. So, I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!
I stay funky, doing donuts in a bin. I stay funky, battle goes wherever I am. I stay funky, I don't know who's ready to spit. Just know you're going down with my 58 clips. I stay funky, honey's taking back to the crib. I stay funky, get the club popped off like pins.